Okay, well, in the interest of time, we will go ahead and get started. I want to welcome all of you to this joint committee meeting of the Hamilton County 911 Emergency Communication District. This is a joint meeting of the Executive, Personnel, and Technology Committees. We are meeting by way of Zoom technology pursuant to the laws of the state of Tennessee. As a result of our meeting by way of Zoom technology, it's imperative that all of you who are on the call can hear and respond. So please check your connections and let John and others know if you're having any type of technical issues with connecting to the call. John, I want to go ahead and ask you to do a roll call. Let's see who is all on the call before we start.
Sure. Director Adams?
Here.
Daisy Madison?
Here.
Chief Murphy?
Here.
Chief Phillips? Chief Phillips?
Here.
Thank you. Chief Rogers?
Here.
Chief Tucker?
Here.
Chief Veal? Dr. Brown?
Present here
We
today.
have a quorum, sir.
Thank you, sir. We shall begin. Chief Murphy is so good. We're delighted to have you. We realize you've been quite busy over the last month or so, but we're delighted to have you present here today.
Yes, glad to be here. Thank you so much for being patient with me. I'm gonna be here as long as I can. I unfortunately got pulled into another emergency meeting, but I'm hanging in there with you guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Chief. John, let's move ahead now with item number 1 on the agenda. This is a joint purchase and of a Central Square CIM application. Go ahead, John. Let's move forward with that.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, ask that we add one thing to the agenda, number
Okay.
2, and that is the recruitment and public engagement specialist.
Okay, is that an update or
Yes, that's it. Yes.
Okay, we'll accept that. There's a motion by John to add that to the agenda. Is there a motion to accept that?
Yeah, so moved, Eddie.
And a second?
Roger, second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
We'll accept that, John, to add that to the agenda.
Thank you. For item number 1, we have with us Ron Bernard. He is the Director of Information Technology and Finances with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office. Most of you know Ron, and again, congratulations to him on his upcoming promotion to the Chief of Staff for the new sheriff going in. We currently have Central Square as our provider for our 911 phone system, our CAD system, and our mobile systems out in the first responder vehicles. Central Square is moving all of their applications to a common identity module, which is CIM, for logins and for authenticity of the person logging into the system. So we are currently using a part of that for our phone system, but not for our CAD and our mobile. The Sheriff's Office is moving to the web-based Central Square for RMS, and part of that requires them to have the CIM product for use. Central Square approached us with the option of us jointly going in together with the district and the Sheriff's Office to purchase a single entity of that module and share it between our organizations. What that will do for us is right now with all the mobile clients that are in the Sheriff's Office, we have to update them in our system. So they send us information and we have to do all those updates as they have movement, which is time consuming for us, but it's just the way, the current system is. If we were able to move to the joint CIM application, it would allow us or allow the Sheriff's Office to manage their own personnel, their own information, as well as it would be a benefit for both of us because we would both be moving to the new platform that we will eventually have to move to in the future anyway. And by sharing costs, it would be a benefit to both of our agencies. Central Square provided us with a quote for the single instance of $25,155. And our recommendation to the board and the Sheriff's Office is in agreement with this, is that we do that, splitting that 50-50, and then any future costs will be split 50-50. We intend on doing, if we do this, that would be put on our servers, as our CAD servers are configured in a much more highly critical operational configuration, so they're much more reliable than an RMS system would be. So we would host that, but and we have the capability of doing that without any additional equipment. Did I cover everything, Seth?
John, thank you. Let me go now to the chair of the technology committee. I'm assuming that you have engaged this proposal. Can I get some comment and a recommendation to move this item forward?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. We feel like this really is a good use of our technology, and also a very good example of partnering with one of our partner agencies and sharing the cost. So I will make the motion that we proceed with this, approve this to the full board, but also with the understanding that our attorney, Mike Mann, and the county's new, the sheriff's new general counsel get together and develop an MOU that we would, both of us sign off on. But I'll make the motion that we move it to the full board.
Is there a second?
Tucker, second.
Okay, Brad Tucker seconds. The matter is before the board now, before the committees. Any further comment?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Daisy.
Is this a sole source?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Just document that in the minutes so that.
Okay. Daisy wants that documented in the minutes that this is a sole source purchase. All right. Any further comments? Roll call, John.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Daisy Madison,
Yes.
Chief Murphy,
Yes.
Chief Phillips,
Yes.
Chief Rogers,
Yes.
Chief Tucker,
Yes.
Dr. Brown.
Yes. Item number 2, John, continuing efforts to maintain staffing, and this is a compensation issue that Ted and John and the staff and the personnel committee has taken a look at. John, can you brief us on this one?
Yes, sir. We continue to struggle with staffing levels. We are at a level right now that if we lose many more of our staff, we're going to be at a position where we're going to have to potentially go into critical staffing levels, which could possibly be 12-hour shifts. And that would cause, I know, several of our current employees to really seriously consider leaving. And then we've been, as the board has asked us to do, we've been looking at every opportunity we can to improve our compensation, our working conditions. We know that one thing that we're looking at is the morale of our people. We've talked about that, and staff is very much aware and working with our employee advisory committee and meeting with our employees and looking at our exit interviews and doing everything we can to address those issues. And hopefully the upcoming proposal for a staffing study will give us more insight into that. We'll talk about that in a minute, but the compensation continues to be an issue, and we all are very much aware of how the marketplace in Hamilton County has expanded in the cost of employee salaries, and we're not drawing the number of people to applicants that we normally would get, and we're still losing people. In fact, in June and July, we lost 7 people. So far this month, we've already had 1 retire, 1 give us notice of resignation. Resignation, and 1 retiring. So we're going backwards in staffing still. And so compensation is an area that we think is very important in stopping that bleeding, to allow us the time to build our staff back up. And so to do that, we are proposing a reduction in our budgeted staffing for telecommunicators. Right now, we have 48 open positions. In the best of years that we had in hiring and training, we were able to get between 20 and 25 people hired and trained in 1 year. We're not anywhere near that at this point. So if you look at 46 people, we're looking at several years before we even get close to our staffing levels. So for us to go in and look at reducing the number of staffing levels, use that budgeting number to provide a raise to our current employees to help mitigate the continuous loss of employees is very important. especially when you consider it costs us about $76,000 to train one employee, and it takes a year to do that. Keeping that trained employee here is very important for us. So as we looked at that option, we came up with recommendation that we reduce our budgeted staffing positions for telecommunicators by 18 positions. That still leaves us with 30 positions that are open to fill and try to get filled in the next several years. In doing that, we are able to provide a $2 an hour raise across the board for all of our telecommunicators. And that's without any impact to our partner agencies. So that would be a huge impact, I think, on those people that are struggling with the mandatory overtime, the extra work that they're under right now. Having that extra money would be a big step towards keeping them here. Additionally, that extra $2 would go a long way in the workplace and attracting people to come in and hopefully improve our hiring and recruiting. If we do that, it's recommended that we also provide that $2 raise across the board for anybody that has the ability to do dispatching and support of our operations down there. It's critical. Right now, we have our supervisors coming in and working overtime to fill slots. We utilize our training staff to fill slots. And so we believe that those positions also should be included in this $2 across the board raise. And that would come out of the district's funding. To make that happen, we are looking at an increased expenditure for those salaries and benefits of $184,871. That can be absorbed into this fiscal year budget. As we part of the budget, we had a positive $206,000 for this fiscal year. So we could absorb that increase for those additional people that are part of the district, part of the budget. We really believe this would have a very significant impact on our retention, and as well, I think time will tell, it will help us in our hiring as well. That is our proposal for the board.
I'm sure you vetted this with Chair Rogers, Ted Rogers of the Personnel Committee. Let me hear from him now, and then if we can get this matter on the floor for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, the board had directed the Personnel Committee and our senior management staff to continue to look at ways to recruit, retain, retrain, reallocate, whatever the word you want to use, to get our staff and keep them trained. And as I was looking at the budget, to be honest with you, I'm not trying to take credit for this, but you can beat me up for this if you want, because this is something that I actually sat down with John with and proposed that he looked at, and not to be repetitive or go through the entire length that what John did, but basically what I asked John to do is I said, consider this, take this to your senior staff, work up a plan if you agree, because there's no way you're going to get 48 people hired in this fiscal year's budget. However, we need to leave spots open to be able to hire people and train, but we already have these dollars budgeted without increasing the budget or going back to any stakeholder agency. Why don't this use the term, if we will, equity a little bit. That's not the proper word, as Daisy knows, but for the time being, let's use the word equity. We have this money put aside that we're not going to spend because we're not going to be able to get that many people hired. Let's use that to retain existing staff while leaving an acceptable number of vacancies there. Now, this is also not a plan to throw money at the problem, because we realize as we continue to work through cultural issues, morale issues, leadership training issues, they've reinstituted some of that from what I understand. But this is an opportunity to use available dollars to continue to retain our staff while leaving dollars available for vacancies. If we get staffed up, then down the road, we can look at rebudgeting those positions. But right now, we're nowhere near that. And so that was my concern. So I brought this to John for him to consider. He took it to his senior staff. They came back with a plan, represented it to me. And I said, this is good. I like it. Let's take it to the Personnel Committee. And of course, to the Executive Committee, as we're meeting right now, to try to put this plan through. I think this is creative. with all of us working together. I think it's using available dollars to retain staff, but it's not asking our agencies for any more money, and it is not putting any undue burden on existing staff or management. We are choosing to award these dollars to anybody that can, so to speak, go down and touch a mic and dispatch, if you will, to be a telecommunicator. And this is important as we all work together to retain staff and not continue to go down the path of a dangerous reduction in the staff that we have. So that is the plan, available for any questions that you may have.
Will you make that in form of a motion? Let me get a second to get it on the table here so we can discuss it.
Yes, sir. I so move.
Ted makes the motion. Is there a second?
Tucker seconds.
Okay, Tucker seconds. All right, the motion is out there. You've heard the presentation. We're open for comments now and feedback. Mighty quiet Zoom call here today.
This is Eddie. I'll start. Ted or John, a couple of questions it brings up that we need to work out. A lot of our people are leaving due to not just money, they're leaving due to workload and mandatory overtime and kind of the stress environment on the floor. What if we eliminate those positions and just give more money to the folks that we got working? How's that going to how's that going to alleviate that problem of I guess what would this do to mandatory overtime? We're still going to have that, right? And
right now, our mandatory overtime, Eddie, is not that large because we offer overtime to people and they voluntarily take it. So the actual use of mandatory overtime is slim. To address your other questions, is this will hopefully continue to stem the tide of losing staff, which is extremely expensive to recruit in and train in. And this also helps us recruit staff. If the wage is higher, it helps us recruit, it helps us retain. And I believe John used the numbers that we have 48 openings. This is reallocating dollars of 18 positions. There are 30 budgeted positions still there to be able to hire and put academies through and help with the numbers.
Okay, yeah, because part of the, what we've been doing is using those budgeted unfilled positions to pay for the overtime and stuff. So how this would still allow us enough money to do that? I mean, how will it affect overtime money wise?
Yes, it would.
So. And it also covers the part-time people. Remember that we just approved part-time folks to come in, and we believe that these other positions, the dollars available, correct me if I'm wrong, John, would cover overtime, mandatory overtime, increase the existing staff's pay that can be a telecommunicator, and also pay for part-time. Remember, this is only 18 of the 48 positions. The other 30 positions are still there, available to be recruited in, or pay overtime, or pay part-time.
That's correct. Yes.
John, a couple of benchmarking issues for me. By doing this $2 raise, from a benchmarking perspective, what does this put our employees as we compare them to other public safety personnel, police officers, sheriff's office, other personnel on the ground, firefighters, in terms of annualized compensation? Have you done that? I don't see the benchmarking here.
We benchmarked earlier on, and we are still behind other agencies considerably. Now, some are paying less, a lot of them are paying more. A good example is Chattanooga. They provided a substantial raise to their employees here this last year. And I think the thing that really kind of drove it home for me when Chairman Rogers came and talked to me about this proposal was Chief Vaughn at our last meeting talked about how the city of Chattanooga PD was losing 5 people a month. And that was not stopped until they gave a substantial raise to their employees. And that stopped their bleeding. And that's what we're looking at here is the same thing. It's we have to stop the bleeding somehow, because if we don't stop the bleeding, then we're in that circle going down the tube where we're having more overtime because we don't have the people. We're having to change our shifts, and people are going to leave because they don't like the more overtime shifts. And so it becomes a circle, and we've got to break out of it. And this is the only way that I see that we can break out of it.
There's one more thing that we add to this is that we've talked about this before in our meetings. The best way to recruit is to have your existing staff ask other people to come join the team. If we have our existing telecommunicators and our existing employees that are reasonably happy with the environment that they have, with the pay, the benefits, all the above, and they are enjoying their job, then that's the best recruitment tool we could ever have, is they go get peers that are qualified, that they feel would be qualified to train in and do this job. We'll never have a better marketing program than that one concept right there. And this continues to plug away at that.
Daisy, I see your lights on.
Oh, well, yeah. I honestly, I hear $2 an hour. I would really appreciate to have had someone just go through what's happening with the plan. And because we continue to piecemeal, we just do little by little by little, and every time I'm pretty much getting the same explanations. I get explanations that say we don't have, we need all of our positions. And now I'm getting to something that says we really don't need all of our positions.
That's not
And-
what we said, Daisy. I'm sorry.
Well,
That's not what we
well,
said.
if you're going to reduce them by 18,
Yes.
then those authorized positions, because if you need them, I don't, what I see down the road is you coming back and asking for them again, which would be reasonable.
Yep.
So it sounds like a part-time fix. And the bigger thing for me, as I always say, we want to pay our people competitively based upon the market. And if we didn't do that in the first couple of attempts, we're still doing another piecemeal attempt that says we're aware, but I can't tell. So that's where I am. People need to be paid, but they need to be paid relative to the position needs to be paid relative to the market. And the market includes people around it. And this gives me no comparative data, but, except trusting what you all say. And, on the one hand, I'll see employees, I don't know that most of the things I read, I can't tell that most people are leaving because of pay, but I'm not keeping tallies. That might be worth keeping a tally to see, the percentage of people that say I'm leaving because of pay. I see a really great evaluation that essentially stated that we were able to maintain personnel at working personnel at a level that allowed the employees to essentially not work excessive overtime, except at their voluntary will or whatever. I thought that was great. But, right here, the last time we talked, does this also include the longevity provisions that we talked about before? And it seems to me there was a piece of that needed to be considered. I didn't hear it addressed. I don't know how it's incorporated. Is there a new holiday put in here?
No, and longevity has
Okay.
not changed.
All right.
Longevity remains the same.
I believe that staff is choosing not to pursue the longevity increase that they were presenting before, just a retention pay incentive that has already been sent to the full board, which has been approved.
Right, longevity, that's what's the other piece. I think the longevity was put on hold. But
I think the staff is
retention-
not going to pursue that.
Okay, and the retention pay, that includes this?
Yes.
And it's all, so explain the increases here. Are these increases since the last budget? Or what's the nature? Because I'm seeing, honestly don't understand what's happening. I hear $2 an hour and it's $2 an hour to everybody, I suppose, correct?
Yes.
And then I'm hearing that these are competitive wages that I've heard for the last couple of times. Maybe the first time we weren't able to give it's a half year, but I'm hearing that again as well. You know, I don't know what kind of raise has been given since this pandemic started, which is in and of itself not an indication of whether it's too little or too much, but trending what the rest of the world is doing is where I'm after. And so a benchmark is what I'd like to see. And that was another thing that just went out of my head, but, and it'll come to me later, but yeah, I'm just, you know, I just got a bunch of numbers thrown at me, and it's my bad that I don't understand them all and didn't read them all. But my bigger thing here is if we need the staff, if we need it and authorize for the sake of discussion, 800, 500 positions or 300 positions, and now we only need, you know, 283 or so. Is that going to be true 2 years from now? And the other piece is what do you mean when you say that it doesn't increase the cost to the agencies? And I can pay it out of this year's budget. Is it that all of these are being absorbed by the 18 positions?
Yeah, if I could answer the first one, we do need those positions. We are in very different times than we've ever been. We are doing a lot of things, not doing a lot of things that we need to be doing. We're not doing any quality assurance, which is impacting our operations. I will tell you that our supervisors talk about things that we need to be addressing that are not being identified through Q&A that normally are done, and we're not meeting our standards for Q&A, which is significant for us. We've always had Q&A, but we can't do it because we don't have the staffing. We're not doing any training. We have one of the things that has propelled us to the top of the industry in our area is our training, because we continually train our people to make sure that they are the top of their game and professional with what they're doing, and, you know, the new trends are coming out. We're doing no training. We have our supervisors that are sitting on the floor acting as call takers instead of managing, because we don't have enough people on the floor. They're trying to help reduce the overtime that our employees are working. They need to be managing. We have training staff coming down there working on the floor because we need people to dispatch. That's helping reducing the overtime that's on the floor. So there's a lot of things that we're not doing that we should be doing, that we have been doing, because we don't have the staff. So it's not that we don't need these positions. We do need these positions, but we're not going to be able to fill those positions for several years because just the logic, I mean, the hiring and the training is not going to allow us to do it. So we're utilizing those positions to provide a funding for a increase in compensation that we hope will turn the tide that we haven't seen yet. We have, you know, the 13% that we gave earlier was significant. I think everybody understands that, but we have not seen that turn the tide to give us the ability to be competitive in our local market. And that's what we have to be. We have to be competitive, because if we're not competitive, we're going to go down. We're going to go under, and we're getting close.
And this isn't
So that's
telling
what this
me,
whole thing is. That's what this whole thing is try to turn that tide, which we've not seen turn yet, and make us a competitive pay for our local marketplace.
Daisy, let
So
me
what-
answer your question
what I'm
relative to the
hearing
48
is-
positions.
I'm sorry.
Let me answer your question relative to the positions. We have 48 positions currently there. I had asked, this came from me, I had asked the senior management to look at using some of the existingly budgeted positions. So that's the money that's already budgeted. It's not an increase, in other words, to use to do this, while at the same time allowing open positions for people to be hired into and trained, allowed to pay for overtime, and allowed to pay for the part-time staff. Senior management came up with the number of 18 positions of 48 to be able to use those dollars to increase, to turn the tide, as John has said, to continue to keep people, retain people without increasing the budget. The key is that we still have those positions available to hire people in. realistically, we're not going to be able to hire 48 people between now and the end of next fiscal year. Probably not even the next fiscal year, because everybody is having that hard of a time getting qualified people. So we're not increasing the budget. We're using existing positions to hire people in, as well as increase the salary to try to stem the tide of turnover, because turnover, as you well know, Daisy, is extremely expensive. And if we can use existing dollars to keep our staff and still have positions available that the wage is now higher to recruit staff, that helps us everybody.
And we are assuming, guys, and like I said, this is always, know that this is not my money. So I'm always going to be an advocate for the other side of the coin to make sure those questions are addressed.
Sure.
But what I'm seeing is, I mean, I can't tell that this increase is going to keep people. We are saying that based upon what? And if we are trying to get this position, it seems like we're trying to get this increase, and if that's what you're trying to do, that's fine. From 13 to 25, which essentially equates to what the police office, the sworn personnel got. Now, I don't know whether or not where either of those were relative to the market. This does not tell me, and I would need that before I feel comfortable voting for it. If it were my dollars, I wouldn't just put it out there. And I'm just not getting that. We're in an economy where everybody is having trouble finding people to work. And if I can find a job somewhere else, I don't know that I'm going to get a job that works 3-11 or a job that has pressure, stress, in this environment, no matter what it pays. And again, there are all kinds of reasons why people are leaving. But having said all that, I don't want to belabor the conversation. Employees the 911 employees are extremely valuable people. They are important. They provide an extremely valuable service, but they deserve to be treated with respect otherwise, not just throwing money at it. And throwing money is a political term, so I'm glad there are no politicians on here, so I'm sorry to say it that way, but it's just much easier in this environment, it appears, to do that than not. And so if I would like to see how this pay compares to other comparable professions, including other 911 employees and the police force, Hamilton County and the city. And if you've already done that and I missed it in your presentation, then I apologize, but
Daisy,
otherwise, yeah.
Daisy, you did not miss that. And I echoed that point that we need some definitive benchmarking data as we compare what does this $2 increase do to the aggregate compensation of all those employees and how they positioned in the marketplace. Dr. Gohagan of our HR team is on the call. I would strongly recommend that we have that study and that data done very quickly to get it back before Ted and this committee so that we can really see the impact of this, the competitive impact of this. Dr. Gohagan, any comments from you?
None at this time, sir. I'm clear on getting more benchmarks for you.
And if I may, because any rebuttals to what I'm saying seems to come across as a thought that I don't think the employees deserve this. I want the employees and everybody here to know that, safety personnel in whatever role they're playing are extremely important, and I think very highly of them. In fact, I always tell they are really priceless. We can't pay them what they're worth because when someone is putting their life out there, but we also owe it to the public and taxpayers to make sure that we're operating in an environment that is consistent with the marketplace that we're working in. So
Daisy, I echo those comments. The employees are our number one investment here at 911. And we want to do everything we can to make sure we can retain those. And Ted makes a point too, we can recruit talent. But we have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure we've got good data too, good comparative data to allow the board to make a good decision, John. Any further comments?
I would have one more
Go ahead.
comment. I would
Go
have
ahead,
one more
Ted.
comment as we compare with other agencies, I don't know that it's accurate that we compare telecommunicator to firefighter to police officer to EMT or paramedic as entry-level jobs, because in my humble experience in emergency services, somebody that wants to be a police officer doesn't want to do any of the other three. Somebody that wants to be a firefighter, that's what they want to be. Someone that wants to be a telecommunicator, that's what they want to be. You're not seeing EMTs necessarily want to be police officers or firefighters back and forth. So as we compare and benchmark to other emergency services agencies, our most accurate benchmark is to other telecommunicator agencies, not to area police, fire, and EMS. I don't think that's an apples to apples comparison. So I would caution us on that.
And Ted, I totally agree with you.
Totally
It's
agree.
just that
Yeah.
people have been saying those, but I am totally in agreement with you.
Yeah, I
Just to
totally agree
compare
with that. The benchmarking of comparative benchmarking with telecommunicators within our sweet spot, if you will, within our recruitment area would be really, really good to have that data when you
Good.
comparatively look at Bradley County, Knox
Good.
County,
Sure.
the other region that we are recruiting from. And then there's some private agencies out there too that are competitors. The logistics companies and that kind of thing that are also using telecommunication personnel. What are they paying as well? So I think Dr. Gohagan can get at that information very quickly. Any other comments? This is an important topic, though. I will tell you that. I want to tell the staff, thank you for bringing this matter before us.
Mr. Chairman, this is Eddie again. Yeah, I do. I agree with everything that's been said, but it's not just money. I want to make sure that if we give, Ted, if we give extra money to the employees, which, I feel like y'all, I wish we could pay them all $100,000 a year, for the job they do. But if we do that, how will that relieve or address our problems? We know that we have people leaving because of stress, because of the workload, because of the environment, because of the overtime and the schedule. It's not just money. In fact, I think we already determined that they weren't all leaving for money. And so that's what I'm concerned about. How does that, and then like you say, if we, John made the statement that we're not doing any training. I think I'd like to clarify that, because we're doing some training. We send our folks to Nina and Tina and things like that. And we're also, we're training our new people. I guess he means on continuing education training of our current people. And my question is, are all of our trainers now assigned full-time telecommunicator? They're not doing any training. They're all doing telecommunications and because that was part of giving them the extra money too, because that was part of my question. I assume they're all assigned on the floor, but certainly they're still doing training, right? But I'm kind of ramble here a little bit, but my big concern is that we not just throw more money at it and we don't address the issues of the stress and the workload and the overtime and the environment on the floor, the things that people have told us they were leaving over. They're not all leaving over money. And it's a good thing we're going to, hopefully do this employee survey. That'll maybe help address a lot of these things. But I guess my thing is let John respond and kind of put our mind at ease about this training, because I don't want the statement out there, we're not doing any training. That's not good. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, our training staff is still full-time training. They're training the telecommunicators. The problem is the trainees. The problem is if you have an academy of 15 people or one person, you're still having the same amount of time our trainers are having to dedicate to that one person they would to a 15-person academy. So they are still busy. They're still doing training, but they're not doing any training of our existing telecommunicators, not doing the ongoing annual in-services, the When we have issues that we see that need to be addressed as far as policies and procedures are getting out of line with, what's accepted in practice, we always address those in our annual in-service. We have not done that for 2 years, 3 years now, which we see the impact in that as management team. So we're not giving that ongoing training to our line telecommunicators. Yes, we do send some people to Tina, Nina, and APCO, but that is a very, very, very small portion of our team that are going to that. Unfortunately, when they come back, because we're not doing any training, we can't really push that information out to those other employees and make the full use of that information that we're getting in those circumstances. So training is, when I say we're not doing training, we're not doing our training to the majority of our telecommunicators through in-services and stuff like that. But we are doing training the new trainees.
I do understand, and that makes a lot of sense. And, because that's the number one reason agencies get sued is lack of training, and fire and police, or failure to train. But one more thing real quick, and I'll shut up. If we were able to, we're keeping 30 open positions. If we're able to fill those 30, how would that do operational wise? Would we get closer to normal and not have to fill those other 18 that you're using for this?
No, I would, if we do this, I would envision as we get closer to 30, we'd be going back and trying to reinstate some positions on a graduated level to get back to 18. We really need 18 to be able to do our operations and do them effectively like we have been doing for years. Those positions are very important for us to be able to do that. Right now, we are in a crisis mode, and we're trying to mitigate a really bad situation, make it use with what we have to do that until we can get our levels back up to where we have the opportunity to try to get those positions reallocated to us. But it's a different time, and I will say that the question, Chief, you brought up is about people are leaving for other reasons than money. We all know that people stay around and put up with more overtime, more grief, more pressure, more stuff when they feel they're being compensated correctly and they feel they're being compensated for it. When you look at the marketplace out there right now, what people are making, we're not comparing with what's out there in the public marketplace. And while I understand we need to be looking at other 911 industries or companies, we're not competing with them. We're competing with the Chattanooga public market for employees, and we're not attracting people. And I think that is our primary indicator that we're not where we need to be. We're not attracting people to come in to get a job. They don't even know about the stress of the overtime yet. We're just not attracting them because our pay salary is not getting us that.
Can I,
Go ahead, Daisy.
I'm sort of hearing that, so just tell us what that is. Show it, other than just in an isolated amount. What other, the market is not just 911. So where are the other positions that is driving these numbers?
You got Volkswagen, you got all these industries coming into town that are paying big salaries and that are taking away from our ability to do that.
All right, guys, time out a little bit. John, I think that what you're hearing is that people really do want to see definitive benchmarking, whether it's the local market or whatever. I think Dr. Cohagen knows how to get at that data. Do not perceive this as the board not being sensitive to employees. We are very sensitive to employees, and we want to do what's in the best interest of our most important assets, the people that take these calls and deliver the services. But we need definitive data. We have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure we get that data. And I think that's what you're hearing. Not that people are against it. They just want to know what the data says, what the facts are relative to that, and what the impact is. We recently gave one of the largest raises in the history of the district, 13.5%. And some of it aggregated up to almost 18 to 20% when you looked at some internal compression issues. So the board is really sensitive to this. We want to help. We want to stabilize the workforce. Give us some definitive data. That's all people are asking for, I think, today. Any further comments from the board? I want to make sure we keep John and his team kind of pumped up to say we're not resisting, we're just trying to make good decisions here. Any further comments? John, before we vote this,
I have a comment,
Yes.
I'm not sure how I can make a statement that voices my opinion without, being combative, but you got to know that that's not my intent here. And we just want, as this board, documented data that shows we've done our due diligence. And when you come back with that, we'll vote accordingly. Because I don't think anybody is in here concerned about anybody paying people too much, as long as they're being paid consistent with what we consider the market. But if it were our personal dollars, I think we'd be doing the same due diligence.
Thank you, Daisy. With that said, I hearing the comments that we've heard, I would recommend that we defer this for a week to allow Dr. Gohagan and her HR team to work with John and his staff to get us some definitive data and come back and be able to deal with this. Also, from an operations standpoint, I'm looking at Jeff Carney. Jeff, I'd like to know if these positions are reduced, what impact does it have on the effectiveness of your organization? Can we answer those calls in a timely manner, continue to make sure calls don't go unanswered? Just the impact of that. I'd like to see some data there too in this particular report. Jeff?
Yes, sir.
May I again? I think John has already alluded to the impact one way or the other, and that the expectation is that we will come back later. And it would be my expectation that if we needed them, we still need them. I do want to, though, thank Ted for continuing to think creatively and be open to, because we just want to vet this out real well so that if someone else comes to it, I'm in a position to support the decision of the board.
Thank you, Daisy.
Ted, because when we first heard this, we all said, what nut thought this up? So we appreciate you telling us.
I'm to blame. I'm sorry.
Ted, we appreciate it. Very creative thinking. John, also in your report, give us an update when you bring this back, what impact this part-time employment is having on the district too. We're teed up bringing in part-time staff. I'd like to see that as part of this presentation as well.
Yeah, I can give you something right now. We are looking at it's looking encouraging. Right now we have starting this week, we got 4, got it here just a second. I moved stuff and that's not good. We've got 4 part-time people that are starting this week, 3 more next in 2 weeks, and then 2 more have tentatively given us indication that they want to start, and they'll start in about another 2 weeks. So we right now, I think we got 7 or 8 that have definitely signed on, that are going to be phasing in on the pay period where they fell in the pay period. But so that's encouraging to us that they're wanting to do that. How much they sign in and how much they contributed, we'll have to wait and see. But we're very optimistic with the fact that we've got that many people right out of the saddle that are wanting to come back and do those part-time positions.
John, that's the folks that had left for one reason or another, and then they're coming back part-time. That's outstanding. Yeah. Good job.
Okay, so the chair recommends deferral for a week to allow us to get this data. Do I have support from somebody? Is there a second on this deferral?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further comments from the members of the committees? All right, Ted, work with John and his team on this benchmarking and the data that we need, and I'll ask Jay to get us together in a week. Jay, can you do that? Can you start working on that? We want to do this relatively quickly too. We don't want to delay this. John has given us kind of a clarion call to kind of stop the bleed. We want to do that. We thought we'd been doing that for the last 6 months or so, but you got to continue it. It's a continuing issue, and we'll continue to deal with it. All agencies, by the way, are struggling with the same kinds of issues. So we're not different from most. So we really appreciate that. Thank you for Ted for the work and John and your team for the work. We'll consider this in a week, okay?
Sure.
All right, thank you. Next item, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. An employee survey, we spoke about a little bit ago. You know, we do get the exit interviews where people are expressing concerns about the work environment here. And, you know, we've always been very try to focus on that, identify issues as they come out. We work hard with the employee advisory committee and meet with our employees on a regular basis. But when we did the last survey in 2018, one thing that was very clear is that when people have the ability to speak anonymously with with a survey person, they speak clearly and they bring out things that they normally would talk with a supervisor. So we've been through some rough times. We've been through COVID, all the working conditions with COVID, and we're working through the staffing issues and things have been very difficult for our employees. And we would like to conduct another employee survey. We contacted Linda Herrig, who was the HR consultant that we used last time. She was very well received, did a great job. We got a lot of good information that we were able to move on and address issues from her survey. She provided us a proposal to do another survey. And part of that proposal, she would sit down with each employee for 45 minutes and then provide us with a report on what she finds. And she is very much willing to do that again. The cost for this new survey is $28,420 plus travel expenses. And I would recommend to the district that to the board that we seriously give that every consideration. I think it's a much needed move.
Okay, you have that in your agenda materials. Ted, as chair of the personnel committee, do you recommend this? Will you put that motion on the floor, please?
Yes, sir. I think that's what we need. We've discussed it for quite a few months, and this is a very important piece of the puzzle as we begin to analyze our existing staffing, our existing cultural issues, and continuing to go forward. So yes, I make that motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
This is the motion about the survey, correct?
Yes, this is
Okay.
Chris Adams. I got a second from Chris Adams with Hamilton County Emergency Services. Daisy, now comments. Daisy?
Oh, I just wanted to make sure of what we were voting on, and then I was going to second if that was what it was, but he's done it already.
Well, this is a deep dive look again. We did this one other time, got some great data back from that. We created employee relations committees and did a lot of things that kind of helped the environment. She will come back and do continuing work in that particular regard. There are a couple of things, though, that, John, I would like to kind of add in looking at your proposal and recommend that Ted incorporate that in her review. One is that this proposal is a joint proposal coming from the board as well as management. I want this consultant to be able to discuss this with the board as well as to report back to the board in a separate meeting, separate and apart from management, so we can kind of get her perspective about what's going on ourselves. That's number one. Number two, we're in the middle of a executive leadership change. As we know, John will be leaving in December. I would respectfully ask that we add in the proposal that she engage the employees to talk about what are we looking for in the next leader here at Hamilton County 911? What are the qualities that the staff see that they would like to see us looking at an executive level director here? So those two items I'd love to see kind of incorporated into that to give the board a little bit of feedback as we kind of stage up our recruitment and selection process for the new executive leader of Hamilton County 911. Those are my thoughts and comments. Any other thoughts and comments?
I concur, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ted. Eddie, anybody else?
I agree 100%, Mr. Chair. I think that also her proposal, and John will get back with her because she'll need to tweak that some before it goes to full board, because It's for 28,000 and plus travel, which I have no problem with, because I think that we spent 28,000 on our facility risk assessment, and I think what we're doing here is kind of our employee risk assessment, where we're at, and this is a critical time in our history. So, but I think that number will change some, because she did have in here that it did not include costs for meeting with the board, the chair, or with the personnel committee chair, or with the board of directors. So she needs to include that in there, and so we'll have the right number. But I agree with everything you said.
Any further comments?
Mr. Chairman, perhaps we should approve the amount best negotiated rate by our senior management, so she can, because like Eddie said, it's probably going to increase just a little bit, probably not that much, but I think we ought to authorize the executive director to negotiate the best price, including the two things that you've asked for,
Right.
so we can move along quickly.
Right, and that amount is 28,420. That's what's on the table right now. So we have a motion and second. John will ask for a roll call.
Mr. Chairman, what I'm trying to say is
Yes.
if she raises her fee a little bit, because she's going to talk to us as board members, say to 30 or 31, I think that the executive director ought to be authorized to go ahead and move that process along and not have to come back and redo this process again if she ups her price a little bit, based on what Eddie just said.
Yeah, she needs, just like we deferred this other topic for a week, we probably need to defer this, get a good number from her, Mr. Chair, and then go forward. But are we is this gonna go to the full board, right? So we need to kind of expedite, because she had said in her thing, she thought she'd be doing it in August and September, and August is fleeting. So, we need to get going on it.
Why don't we approve the base with giving John the flexibility to add, based on what the consultant says the additional cost might be, and then
Yes.
we bring that price back to the full board. I'd just like to get this consultant engaged if we can, because someone else will be asking her to work. And we
I'll
really
make that
want to get this
motion,
done.
Mr. Chair. I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, is there a second with that adjusted language? Eddie made the motion. The base price 28,420, along with whatever the additional costs that the consultant gives us to have these additional meetings. Is there a second? There's a second by Ted. All right, John, let's do a roll call, please.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Daisy Madison.
Did we lose Daisy?
We did, sir.
All right.
Chief Phillips,
Yes.
Chief Rogers,
Yes.
Chief Tucker,
Yes.
Dr. Brown.
Yes. Did you get Chief Murphy?
Is she back? I'm sorry. Chief Murphy, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
All right, John, you can go ahead and move that forward. Please
Okay.
tell the consultant that the executive committee would like to have a Zoom call with her to talk a little bit about process and the interviews with the executive committee and the personnel committee, okay?
Yes.
All right, so thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the main center UPS battery replacement. Our UPS batteries are on a 4-year replacement cycle. And they were last replaced in 2018. We put out a bid for new batteries and got 2 bids back, the lowest bid being from AC/DC Power Technologies in the amount of $46,589.79. The scary thing is the current lead time for these batteries is 41 to 43 weeks. So we really need to jump on this and get this in place as soon as we can. This is we have a capital budget for this fiscal year for this in the amount of $50,000. So that is within that capital budget. And we're looking at depreciation of $11,647 for 4 years.
Okay, so I assume the technology committee has gotten that. Eddie, any comments? Would you make that motion, please, to get that on the floor?
Yes, I will. Thank you, sir. I would ask Seth, since there is this 41 to 43 week, are we going to be okay until such time as we get the new batteries? What shape are we in, number one? And number two, is it reasonable or possible to retain some batteries as spares, or should we even be thinking about that?
It's always hard to tell how long they'll last. I mean, I think we'll probably be okay. The company that won the bid, they actually have some in reserve. So they said if we did have a failure, they could provide them, to us for a nominal fee, I'm sure. But they do have something that can get us back up and running relatively quick if needed.
Okay. And
So-
is this something, I know that part of their bid is to take care of disposing of the existing batteries. Should we try to keep one on the shelf, or would it not make any sense to, or what?
I don't think it would make any sense. They have to be maintained. And also it's not something that we can replace ourselves. Like a trained professional has to come in and do it. So I don't know that it's a big deal to keep one.
Okay, well, short of that, this is under budget, and so we do, technology makes the recommendation, we make the recommendation that we accept the bid from AC/DC Power Technologies for $46,589.79.
Motion by Mr. Phillips. Is there a second?
Second, Adams.
Second by Adams. Roll call, John.
Dr. Adams,
Yes.
Daisy Madison. She's calling you.
Daisy she just lost her internet connection.
Okay,
She
she's
sent me a text, so.
she's calling me. Let me hang on. Chief Murphy,
Yes.
Chief Phillips,
Yes.
Chief Rogers, Chief
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Dr. Brown.
Yes. Next item, John, number 6.
May I?
Thanks, Daisy.
Hello.
I want to protest because I'm sure John or Ted cut me off.
That's terrible. That's terrible. That's
My
terrible.
internet went dead, guys. I'm so sorry. All right.
Oh, they assure us they did not cut you off, Daisy.
Item number 5 is policy change requests. We have several policy changes that request authorization on. The first one is personnel policy 1, dress and personnel. Basically is to add a color for the new telecommunicator senior shirts, make it part of policy, their new color. We have on per 4 disciplinary procedures. We've been asked to bring it to this committee that the appeals process that currently goes to the full board be removed and make any appeals for personnel actions remain with the personnel committee. Per grievance 05, again addresses the appeals process, keeping that going only to the personnel committee. Ops 5, missing persons, and adjust language for the standard revision that has been put into place as is section 6, which is another standard adjustment that we have to put in place. So these policies are presented for approval.
Okay, John has read the policies. I did have our legal counsel, Mike Mann, review these changes, and Mike said these are acceptable from a policy review standpoint and from a legal standpoint. So any further comments from John about that? Ted, these are all personnel items. Any comment from you?
No, totally support them. So moved.
Will you make a recommendation? You did that?
Yep.
Is there a second? We've got this on the floor now. Is there a second to get this on the floor?
Second, Adams.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. All right. All right. Any further comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify, we're removing the full board from the appeals process, but we keep the personnel committee, right? So it'll stop with the personnel committee.
That's correct. Yes.
I think what we learned, board members, was that through some of these processes that the same people are having to hear it twice, and it really didn't make sense. So, but it's personnel still in it, so I'm good.
Yes.
Thank you.
May I?
Go ahead, Daisy.
What's the makeup of the personnel committee? Is it just the board members, or is it board members and staff?
Just
Board members only.
Board members on the personnel committee.
Okay.
Yeah. in that process, the staff actually presents and the board members hear the staff side, they hear the employee side.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I guess
before-
what she-
I haven't, go ahead.
I start like Daisy might be coming from, the personnel's made up of board members, but it's not all the board. It's just
Right.
certain, yeah,
Right.
so I don't know if, I don't know, but maybe,
Personnel Committee is chaired by Chief Rogers. Also on it is Chief Adams, Director Adams, I'm sorry, Dr. Brown, Chief Phillips, Chief Tucker, and Chief Veal. So it's over half of the board is on this committee.
Okay, so it's not 100% board. It is partial.
Yes, it's
Okay.
six members. So it's over half the committee, over half the board, I'm sorry.
It's 6 members, and how many is board 3?
All 6 members are board members.
All six members are board members.
Okay, all right, got it.
Over half of the board.
Okay, the other thing that I was, and this may be, and it may have been already discussed, and I'm sorry if I was gone. When the issue is brought before the personnel committee, or in this case, the representative for the board, is that correct? Are both parties in the room, meaning the employee and the administration?
Yes,
Yes.
Is that a requirement?
according to council, yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, John, roll call. We're ready for the vote.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Daisy Madison,
Yes.
Chief Murphy,
Chief Murphy, he's got to unmute.
Yep.
Well, go ahead, John. She may be busy.
Chief Phillips,
yes.
Chief Rogers,
Yes,
Chief Tucker,
Yes.
Dr. Brown.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is Division Director of Vehicles. Currently, we have 3 division directors. Of the 3, 2 have assigned take-home vehicles. And it's the recommendation that for equity between positions that we provide a vehicle to the Director of Administration as well. This can be done. We have 2 vehicles that are used as for support, unassigned, and for general use. We can utilize one of those vehicles to provide that director with a vehicle to take home. Recommendation is that for equity between the division directors, we provide that 3rd vehicle.
I did have an opportunity. Ted had contacted me about this proposal coming forward, and I asked some specific questions of Ted relative to how this conforms to the county-wide policy on take-home vehicles. And Ted, your comments there too, and whether or not how does this conform to our emergency response team?
yes, we all know, even in the incident management system, as emergencies occur and we call back staff in, John functions as our incident manager. Since he's our executive director, Jeff is our operation, that's a section chief. Seth obviously works as logistics technical, that's a section chief. And admin finance is a section chief, and that's what Director Donick does. Currently, Director Donick is a director along with our other 3, her other 2 peers, as well as our executive director. And for equity and parity purposes, she does not have an assigned take home. And so I think it's only fair that she be assigned a vehicle along with her peers to have the same level of benefit that her peers do.
Okay. All right, any other comments? I did refer this matter to the attention of our legal counsel, Mike Mann, to make sure that our current take-home vehicle policy meets federal IRS guidelines. And some of those vehicles are required to have shadow stickers on them at the end of the day to make sure that they are used for official business. And then there are some other provisions that prohibit personal use of these particular vehicles. So Mike is reviewing that. I've asked that he do that. So John, please make sure you contact him. He should have a report to us very soon. Any further comments about this?
Mr. Chair, yeah, this is Eddie. I'd just like to say, we have failed to do this in the past, given this director a vehicle. I think that it is time to do it based on especially what Chief Rogers has told us, that we do work in the incident command system in NIMS world, and finance administration is a key part of that. I think though we need to make it in our policy, so to avoid any criticism, I think everybody should know that all 4 of our directors are subject to callback when we have a disaster. We have a major event that affects our center or affects our county. Even when they call them all in, they all need to be available. Well, they need to understand it's part of their job duty is to recall during that time, of course, if they're not dead or sick. But we need to, well, John, you're looking kind of peaking, but we need to make that understanding that those 4 are top level directors in NIMS. We need them to recall and that's why they're having this vehicle, is to recall and to be available for any emergency. So anyway, so I'm good with it.
Any further comment? Ted, will you make that motion?
I do.
Ted makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second, Adams.
Second by Adams. Okay, any further comment? If not, roll call, John.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Daisy Madison,
Yes,
Chief Murphy, Chief Phillips,
Yes.
Chief Rogers,
Yes.
Chief Tucker. Let's go, Dr. Brown.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is the director's annual evaluation. Per district policy, per 07, the division directors are to be annually evaluated from the time period of July 1 to June 30th. Each director is to be evaluated by the executive director, chair of the personnel committee, one of the remaining division directors, and 2 employees who work directly under or closely with that director. These have been completed and are presented to the personnel committee for approval, and on approval, they will be formalized and put in their files.
John, Daisy's got her hand up.
Go ahead, Daisy.
this was back on the other, and the question is, when we see the salary numbers for your comparative data, is the take-home vehicle included as part of that compensation?
Yeah, we have to pay something as a compensation part of our for taxes and stuff for take-home vehicle.
Well,
Yeah.
and John, that's part of what Richard has asked Mike to look at. It may be that we can put shadow markings, like the county does and the police do, that you can't see them all the time. You know what I mean? The shadow decals, and that makes that an exempt vehicle because you guys are public safety, and you may not, if it's an exempt vehicle, you don't have to pay anything for it. It's, it's not charged on your income or whatever, but Mike's going to get back with us on that.
It's my understanding that even if it is a marked vehicle, if you drive it home, you pay taxes, but I might be wrong, but that's my understanding.
It's just a graduated scale based on the use of it. So,
Yeah.
But Daisy, go ahead. Did we finish your?
Yeah,
question?
it was that piece to make sure that you're in compliance.
Yeah.
And the other piece is, as part of a total compensation package, is there a value attached to that? And is that individual, if I'm hearing there are restrictions on the use, then if that individual is out and about and there's an emergency, they do have to go home then and get their car?
I want to make sure that Mike takes a look at
Yeah.
our policy as compared with Hamilton County's policy to make sure that our guidelines are the same.
Okay,
We'll give answers to all of that, Daisy.
okay,
We've given that to him. I'll bring that back to the personnel and executive committee to make sure we're conforming.
thanks.
All right, great questions, though. All right. So the evaluations have moved forward. Ted, any comments about those? You've been in charge of that process.
Yeah, I participated in the evaluations of our 3 division directors, along with Director Sturmer. We have got those completed as board participation, and John, I can't remember. That doesn't go to the personnel committee, correct? It just requires my participation, right?
No, the personnel committee has to approve it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
They have to
I
approve.
couldn't remember.
Yeah, and then it goes into the file. It's finalized.
Yeah, so the personnel committee, how do we get those evaluations, or how's that process go? I don't have the policy in front of me. I can't remember.
Per the policy, let me try and find it here real quick. Per the policy is it's presented to personnel committee. Here it is right here. Once the evaluation has been completed, it should be presented for approval to the personnel committee by the executive director. Once approved by the personnel committee, the evaluation shall be filed in the division director's personnel file. So basically, the evaluations are submitted to this personnel committee, and if the personnel committee finds that it's in a proper evaluation, then it's approved and finalized.
Yeah, so have we included those documents on this call?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you should have those documents if you've reviewed those of the division directors. John's evaluation includes the executive committee as well as one of his division directors. And what else, John? Is it a peer?
Yes.
Yeah, and so I'm currently working with John to get all of those in. I do have Director Carney's. I will be submitting mine, and we will need to get that from the executive committee to evaluate, and then that evaluation goes before the full board because obviously John works for the full board. So we're working through the processes on that.
Great. Any comments? I would like the executive committee to have a one-on-one with John before it goes to the full board.
Yes, absolutely.
Feedback session if we could.
Of course.
Yeah. All right. John, thank you for moving that forward. This is important. I think we now have a good definitive timeline on doing these and making sure they get done annually. Because evaluations like that, performance appraisals should give some feedback to people in terms of their goals and how they have accomplished those goals, but what new goals are going forward.
Yeah. Now, John's my understanding the documents are attached. So are we looking for a vote from the personnel committee this time for the division directors to be approved so they're in the file?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, that's what I was wondering. We do have all three, right? I'm just seeing Jeff's. Maybe I just didn't print them off, but we got Seth's and Jay's.
Yes.
She sent them all.
Yes.
Okay. I remember looking at them, but I didn't print them, so I wasn't sure where,
Yes.
Daisy, any comments?
Well, it's unfortunate it's brought before us, but there's no discussion. It is just, I almost didn't even need to have it on this Zoom because, it's just not the kind of thing you discuss in a public meeting, even if it seems to me if it's a closed session or something, but in a public meeting where the rest of the world, every citizen has the opportunity to listen to this. Is that what I'm hearing here?
That is the policy.
And that is required?
Well, it's required because it's a public meeting is the answer to your question. But we're talking about the evaluations that I've done behind the scenes, but this obviously is being live streamed and this is a public meeting. So there's.
Oh, I get it.
Question, yes.
I just know sometimes there are executive sessions that are held and I didn't know if that could happen. But anyway, I just think I've never heard of this being open to the public, but that's my bad. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, Daisy, I didn't mean to overspeak. Go ahead.
No, you good.
Go ahead, Ted.
Good.
Based upon that, if other members of the personnel committee have reviewed the evaluations of our three division directors, I make a motion that we approve those and move those to the file.
Okay. Ted makes the motion. Is there a second?
Adam second.
Chris seconds it. Any further comment?
Well, I will make this comment because it's on my heart.
Okay.
I think the evaluations are great and I really appreciate them being brought forth. I was really disappointed in the lowest valuation. And that's all I have to say.
Okay. And I didn't understand your comment. You were disappointed in what, Daisy?
The lowest average evaluation.
The lowest average evaluation. Okay. All right, roll call, John.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Daisy Madison,
Yes,
Chief Murphy,
Yes,
Chief Phillips,
Yes.
Chief Rogers,
Yes.
Chief Tucker, Dr. Brown.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda, sir, is Executive Director's retirement strategy for leadership transition.
Hey, I put this item on the agenda to talk to, especially the executive committee, to talk a little bit about process and what you would desire in a search process for the next executive director. And so I just wanted to have a little bit of dialogue to pick your brains about what type of search. Are we looking at a national search, regional search, just process in general, and get some ideas from you relative to that? Nothing to vote on today, but just pick your brain.
My comment is usually per county policy, we're attached to that.
Right?
Not bound by that, but we're attached to that, is that we advertise in-house. And if we find an acceptable candidate in-house, we go with that. But we are also willing to do a regional or national search as we need to if we cannot find an appropriate in-house or regional candidate.
Okay. Any other feedback from board members?
When would we start that process? We know that John's retiring in December.
And it's my understanding we were going to potentially set that date after we got this consultant in to talk with the staff to see what kind of ideas or vision the staff had about their input on the new executive director. Take that along with the executive committee and the personnel committee and go from there.
That's a good point, Ted, and good reminder, because you know, our in-house, you know, I'm like you, I prefer to post in-house first, but the in-house people need to know if there's any changes or anything we want. They need to be able to decide how, you know, if they're interested. So we need I'd prefer to, yeah, so you're right. We need to go through that process first and then we'll be ready. We've still got time. John's, I think he's okay.
But we don't.
I'm not dead yet.
Not dead yet.
He's probably scratching the days off the wall, though. You know, they're just counting them down, right, John?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Oh, well, we don't want to rush this process. This is very
Right.
important. Probably one of the most important things we will do is the selection of executive leadership. So be thinking about that, all of you, at the end of the day, and we'll come back together after we talk with our consultant relative to that, and maybe talk about process and direction we'd like to go in. Okay? Is that okay with you? I did want to let you know that's high on the agenda for us to begin to think about how we move that forward. Right? Also, John, we got to think about a great celebration for you as well. I'll ask Ted and the executive committee to talk a little bit about that. What do we do to really honor the things that you have done for this district and your leadership? And we certainly, again, say we really do appreciate you and your team for all that you do. And certainly we wish you the best, but we'll celebrate that with you a little bit more as we move forward. Okay, the next item is item number 9. General Counsel called me about this and said that if y'all recall, about a year ago, there was a gentleman that had property out by Hamilton Place Mall, several acres, and had brought that before the board for a possible purchase of that land. A lot of conversation about that, a lot of feedback, a little bit of angst about it too. I won't go into all of that, but in essence, we kind of nixed that idea because we've invested heavily in the 3300 Amico Highway property. And in my conversations with other leaders around the city and county, there was really no real interest in finding $80 million or so to build a new public safety 911 police center and that kind of thing. But I did want to put it on the agenda so you would know that that gentleman is still interested in selling that property to Hamilton County 911. Mike Mann advised me of that, and I felt compelled to put it on the agenda. I will say to you as chair, right now, we have a new county mayor that will be seated in about a month. The city mayor is relatively new. I can't say that Mayor Kelly is new anymore. All the things that he's been through, seems like he's been here forever, but he is still relatively new, being here about a year or so. I think this needs a lot of in-depth conversation and thought relative to a total project, city and county. So I would like, as chair, I'd like to refer this matter to our committee to take a look at this down the road. But I will put it on the table for you to talk about now. But the facilities committee ought to take this under advisement and to take a look at as we talk about the potential for moving or building a new center and really the financial planning that comes with that. So we're really at a very delicate point in our governmental relations because people are so new, and this kind of thing takes a lot of thought and a lot of time to work through. I'll just put it out there and engage you to get your thoughts about it.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to recommend that due to the massive level of change going on and the importance of this decision, as well as the decision we've made to stay where we are, but as in looking for the future, I would recommend to you that you call an executive committee meeting in the near future in person so we can sit down and talk about some initial strategies to this before we refer this to our appropriate committees.
Okay, that's a good thought.
I'd also like to include in the executive committee meeting the director as well as legal counsel, so we can make sure that our recommendations are by the book, if you will, and then refer that on to our appropriate committees.
Okay, thank you, Ted. Any further comments or any comments about what Ted has said?
That sounds like a good way to proceed.
Ted, we will do that then. We will try to schedule an in-person meeting and talk through that. A little bit of strategic planning, if you would. That's what we'll say. It's a strategic planning meeting and try to talk through those issues. All right? All right. John, you had another item that you added to the agenda?
Yes, sir. As you know, our recruitment and public engagement specialist position is open, and we advertised for that. We got 11 applications. Out of 11 applications, we whittled it down to 5 for interviews, and out of the 5, we ended up only getting 3 for interview. The interview committee consisted of myself, Director Carney, Dr. Gohagan, Chief Rogers, and Mike Dunn, the county mayor's PIO, Public Information Director, and had a very good interview process. And we all strongly believe there's one person that fits the need, has a lot of experience, has the ability to come in and hit the ground hard running. We were very impressed with this person, and so we are looking at a man that has a lot of experience. And while we normally come in and bring people in at the entry level salary range, we felt that with this level of experience, with the talent, the experience that he would be able to bring in and help us in a time when we really need to be working on engaging our public and recruiting, that going out of the norm was an appropriate thing to compensate him and more appropriately for that experience that he's bringing in. So we're recommending that this position, the base minimum is $46,476. We're recommending that we be authorized to offer that position a salary of $55,000, which is 94% of midpoint. And again, midpoint is where a person is supposed to be that has all the skills and ability to do that job. This person far exceeds that with the years of experience and things that he is able to bring and show to us. And so because this was out of our norm, and we really wanted to come and bring it to this committee and see if this committee would support that before we make that offer to that person.
Ted, from the Personnel Committee, and I don't think that, did you send us the resume, the vita of this person at all?
Did not, because we really just had the interviews all and the discussion, and it was at last minute, wanted to get it on this committee because we wanted to make that offer as soon as we could. So we didn't send that.
Could you tell me what the county pays?
I do not know. This was the benchmarked, we benchmarked it for the last person that was in place. So it was benchmarked at what, 2 years ago, for this salary range. But I don't know what the county pays.
John, have you told the committee who we're considering the depth of?
I did not know if that was appropriate, at this point with, I can be more than happy to, but
John, will this party be, this will be PIO duties as well as recruitment? And you remember we went through that before, and the person we had hired had never really done PIO duties.
Yeah.
But aren't you looking at
Well,
somebody that
that's-
can
that's-
kind of represent?
yes, I'm sorry. It's the personal information. I mean, PIO, it's the recruiter, it's the public engagement. It's that huge component that we've been missing that we need to get in place and working. And this person has experience in all that. He, 30 years in that industry for public safety. So he's very, very experienced, very knowledgeable. And we believe that we'll be able to come in and immediately get us traction.
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. Chris,
Daisy, go ahead, Daisy.
Do we have that?
No.
Do we have,
You do not.
so how do we vote on it? Are we being asked to vote on this?
Well, I think what John is doing is that we want to move the salary a little bit past the midpoint because of the high scoring and successful candidate that our committee approved and agreed was the best candidate to offer the position to, has a substantial amount of experience in this field. In fact, I was surprised that we have the opportunity to get him in our team, and it's almost like he's coming home. He has over 30 years experience in emergency services and doing this line of work, has worked for the city before, has worked for the county before, and is quite broad in his depth. And so in order to get him, I believe that we're going to need to get around that 55 mark to get him on board. And I think that's why John is bringing it to the personnel committee or the executive committees, because it's a little bit higher than what we would bring somebody in if they were first starting. But once again, it's justified even in county policy, from my understanding, and our policies, because of the depth of experience this person has.
Well, I think the issue though, John, is that if your recommendation today is to allow you to advance beyond, a little bit beyond the midpoint for the job, see if you can recruit the person. That person is not hired though. The committee still needs to see and vet and have a vote as to whether or not they approve this person.
Normally that's my hire, sir. It's not.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that if you're asking the committee to approve the salary.
If that's what you want to do, that's fine.
John, let me be blunt. Are you asking for approval or are you giving a recommendation to the committee?
Yeah.
Perhaps I'm not clear.
Yeah.
I'm asking for approval to go outside of the norm of salary range for this individual.
Well, let me ask back, is that something that you and your staff normally do, or is that something that we approve as a board or a committee?
Normally, if we don't go this high, we do that at a much lower level and make that offer. But this person has so much experience that we feel this is an appropriate number to get. And that's, we wanted to get.
I think John's correct in bringing it to us to approve,
Yeah.
And so I think that I agree with John on that. I guess the word that and I trust Ted. I wanted to commend you, John, that Ted was on the, Chief Rogers was on the committee, and Mike Dunn was on the committee, and Dr. Gohagan and the others. We have good staff, but also including our personnel chair and including Mike Dunn, who really knows what he's doing in this area. I think I commend you on that. I guess, and I tend to say yes on this, but I think I guess our question is we're concerned because y'all keep talking about who this great person is, but we haven't been included in it. we don't know what's going on, but I do trust your judgment, Ted. But I don't know, is it appropriate or not appropriate for him to share with us why they're wanting to do this? I mean, that's what John's trying to explain to us, is he has a person who
The successful candidate that we feel would be best fit for this job is Bruce Garner. And Bruce Garner has a substantial background in the city and the county emergency services to be able to do this job. And frankly, I'm surprised that we might have the opportunity to get him, but 46, 47 is going to be just a little bit too low. And we're trying to get within guidelines the best salary that we can to get this person on board for the skill sets that he has.
right.
All right. Certainly that person comes with an enormous amount of experience
Yes.
in this area, I will tell you. And even at that salary, it's amazing you could get a person
And that's kind of
caliber
where,
of that salary. Yeah.
that's kind of where we're going with that, Richard. I mean, I guess it's within John's approval, but I think he wanted to bump it up a little bit for transparency.
Well, no, John's doing the right thing. It's really not, he really should come to the board for this, because he's wanting to increase it from what he normally would, which is very standard. And we just convoluted this because we just got hit with it. We don't know who it is, but understanding, trusting your judgment and Mike's judgment and John's judgment, that's good. But knowing this helps us understand what's going on. It really does. I'm really ready to make a motion, but Mr. Chair, could we hear from Chris Adams? Does he have anything on it?
Well, I worked with him for several years, so I'm probably partial, but he's unbelievable talent. If we could get him, that's a home run. There's no doubt. So, I'm probably not a partial person to be talking about it, because I'm too close to this issue, because he was fantastic under my administration when I was in the fire department. It's pretty phenomenal what he can do. So if we can get him for 55, that's a home run, no doubt.
And he knows you're on the board and he's still willing to come?
I guess he does. I'm not sure he knows that or not.
All right. I think that adds a little bit of explanation to why you're moving towards a little bit past the midpoint, John. That was my conversation to you. It's certainly your hire, but it is the board's kind of policy to say, yeah, that's an acceptable thing to do at the end of the day. So Ted, will you make that motion?
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to. I think it's appropriate that we move a little bit past the midpoint to an annual salary of at least $55,000 to recruit Mr. Garner into this position. I think he'll do a fantastic job. So I do make that motion.
And is there a second?
Adam, second.
Adam, second. Dr. Gohagan, are you still on the call?
Yes, sir, I am.
This is acceptable within our hiring limits?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, thank you for your review of that. Any further comment?
Yeah.
Daisy, go ahead.
I know y'all rushed through this so I could shut up, but
No,
I just don't see making a decision without knowing all the information. And the one place it's as if, we got all kinds of money. It doesn't matter what everybody else pays. We need to pay this because I know this person. There are other people out there that probably is just as well, that you wouldn't come anywhere near paying that level of pay. And we are funded by, we are with agencies, Hamilton County and City of Chattanooga, that are much bigger than, have just as important public information requirements as we do. So if that's secret information, to know what their ranges are and why they aren't paying this person more, because they are also, it's not position, because they are also under the same gun that we're under. And
Daisy, are you asking to see some benchmarks of what other PIOs are?
I just asked basic information was, what's the salary range for that same position at the county, and where that person fits in that salary range. Because if that's private information.
I know what Daisy's saying, but part of our problems, I think, is going to be is the county and the city, they have PIOs, but their PIOs don't do recruitment and retention stuff like ours does. So I kind of a joint. I'm not sure if we can really do that, but we can try.
But even if that's the case, then he obviously does not have the experience in that area because he's not had to do it. You know, so I'm not, and this has nothing to do with the individual. Bruce is highly respected, does a great job, but you know, we use these when it's convenient to us. So if you got your votes, move on. I'm good.
I want to make sure that we have vented very well what your concerns are and have satisfied those particular concerns. Are you asking us to do something?
Well, I asked for information. I asked for information that I finally got a name, but I wasn't as interested in the name as I was the benchmark, meaning what are our two entities that this person just left? What's their range? How does he fit within that range? And what does this mean? You know, because we talk about market.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're saying it doesn't matter because this person, I want this person for the job, and then you tell me this job includes things that he has no experience in, I don't get it. Except for the fact that, you know, we all have a tendency to want to work with people that we know and people that, you know, we've had good experience with. So I get that, but we also have to be as objective and unbiased as we can. And
I think Daisy is asking for some basic benchmarking information before the decision is made. And Dr. Gohagan, how difficult is it to get that information for us?
It won't be quick, but I can probably do it. I'm not saying it's impossible. Honestly, I don't know. When I say it won't be quick, we also have the benchmarking for the other, the raise that you wanted me to do as well. I can push this in the hopper, but it's probably going to take a couple weeks before I can get anything back to you.
okay, now what I'm asking, maybe don't overdo what I'm asking. I was asking specifically, this individual has worked for city and county. What's the city and county's position range for this job? And what's that person's current pay? I wasn't asking you to go out and do the entire market. I'm assuming at this point that city and county is our market.
John, is there an equivalent position in the county that's benchmarked, like Daisy said?
No, we are benchmarked. This position was benchmarked, like I said, 2 years ago when the board first approved it. It was benchmarked by our HR consultant for this price range. But with us, as I forget who said it, but we're true. We put one person over multiple job duties that like the county or the city would be doing. So to say that this person comparatively gets a PIO, well, the other one doesn't do recruiting, it doesn't do all of the multimedia stuff that this person is going to be doing. So it's really difficult to compare it as apples and apples and oranges to oranges, but it was benchmarked for this job description by our HR consultant, and this is in the benchmark range.
Well, if I may, then I'm not understanding why the 90% exception. If the position is benchmarked properly, and we're getting a person that does not have that proper or that level of exposure and breadth of experience.
Oh, he does. He's got it for all across every aspect of it. He does. Yes, he does.
Then the job that he's doing, he must have done it at, he did it at the county, or he did it at the city, or he did it somewhere else.
He's got 30 years of experience in multiple positions, and he's got the experience for everything that we need.
Okay.
Can kind of tell you, I know he was making over 70 at the city, and I think our PO makes 60. And I believe there's a couple open in the city right now that pay around 55. So that's probably about what we're paying range wise. I don't know that for a fact, but I think I remember seeing a job announcement somewhere. But anyway, he does have TV, radio, and then city government, county government experience. So salary range, of course, our PO has been here 20 something years as well. So
I think, John, just in a response to Daisy, it would be helpful to bring some data, even from the prior position, to show us the range of the hiring of that position, because you said it's within the range of the prior position, just letting us see that and to see the difference. And then you justify why you think you need to move to 90% of the benchmark. I think that's pretty simple data to get, not really hard. We recognize it is your hire, we get that, but the board, you actually work for the board. So the board has some input. Yes, I get that too as well. But that's why we just want to be clear on what we're voting on. That's all that is.
And Dr. Cohagen, I'm just relying upon you to make sure that, because we've gotten into trouble at the city, hiring people in at the max on the range or on the high end of the range, and relative to other people that were already there. And I know you only got one of these positions, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
But then there are other positions that, Liz, just make sure we don't get any legitimate complaints that we come back and say, well, yeah, because we did this, now we need to do that. I just want to make sure all of this is kosher and it doesn't get us into any tight situation in the future. But
Yes, ma'am, I'm clear on it.
yeah.
We'd love to have that report. If you could get that to us, Dr. Gohagen, it would be helpful. All right, any further comments? Ted, will you make the motion that we adjust the range to 90, is it 94%?
Yes, whatever John's recommendation was, I support it. Angel, would you, well, actually, John, she works for you. Would you entertain the motion? Let me rephrase that. Would you entertain the idea that she works on this position financially first before she does the other, so we can get word back, since this is in the hopper to offer a position to somebody versus study salary positions?
Yeah, we can do that. Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, John, for
Yeah,
that.
based on that, yes, I make the motion.
Okay, is there a second?
What's the motion? I'm sorry.
The motion is that we allow you the flexibility to move this position to 94% of the hiring range.
Okay. Thank you.
94 or 96, John? What did you say?
I thought he said 94.
It's 94. 55,000 is 94.
Yeah, that's correct. That's my motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Adams.
Chris seconded. All right, we're ready for a roll call, John.
I have my hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see it, Daisy. Go ahead.
I don't really see a reason. I don't really see a reason to do this if it's already approved. We already know what's going to happen. So I don't really want to make work just for the sake of making work. I wanted it as a basis of my decision, but the decision is made. So I don't really want to put work on Dr. Cohagen or the staff just for the sake of doing it. So, I mean, really, I'm really happy with this, and I don't say this in there, but I don't want to give her busy work. And as long as she is comfortable that with the decision that this board is allowed and that they make in her consultation with John keeps us out of trouble in the future.
But Daisy, you've raised the issue, and I think having her get that data for us will be helpful. Just have it into the record.
Whatever you like, that's fine. I just wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. All right. Roll call, please.
Director Adams,
Yes.
Daisy Madison,
I have to abstain.
Chief Murphy,
Yes.
Chief Phillips,
Yes.
Chief Rogers,
Yes.
Chief Tucker, Dr. Brown.
Yes. All right. Any other items to come before the committees, the executive committee or the personnel committee, technology committee today? Any members of our public who might be accessing the call that may want to have a conversation with members of the board?
I do have one question, sir.
Yes.
On this last motion, am I authorized to make a job offer, or do I need to wait for some additional action?
I think
Yeah,
you're
I'll-
authorized.
Go ahead, Eddie.
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure. You
Oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
You go ahead. Well, I think you're authorized, John, to go ahead.
Yeah, my understanding is that you're authorized to.
Thank you. I want
do that.
clarification. Thank
The
you.
hiring decision is certainly yours as the executive director. You were asking us about the salary range and we voted to allow that to move on.
Thank you.
All right.
And just for the record, that's why I didn't want to give that other word, because I agree that you are now authorized to use your discretion and pay up to 94% fine, whatever it was we approved.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else from the members of the committee? I want to thank all of you for your patience today. We've been on the call a few hours now, but we had a lot of things to cover. John and staff, thank you for what you continue to do. Let's make sure you get back with us very quickly so we can deal with those compensation issues, right?
Yes.
And when you talk to our consultant, make sure that Jay sets up that call with the consultant very quickly for the board, okay?
Yeah, am I correct that you'd like to talk to her before the before and after both?
Yes, we'd like an introductory kind of meeting.
Just
Zoom
talk
meeting.
about what you're looking for.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And then a report coming back from
Yes.
her to the board as well as to your team.
Okay.
All right. It doesn't, anybody else?
Well, I'd just like to say, you already welcomed Chief Murphy, and I just wanted to tell her that, normally the new board member buys everybody dinner, but since we're meeting by Zoom, I don't guess we're gonna be able to do that, but
Well, I would like to say welcome as well. Normally, I get to meet them by way of a face rather than a C. Murphy, but I'll take what I can get. I think I saw you in the parking lot one day.
yeah,
so,
hopefully we'll meet soon in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chief, any comment? Chief Murphy, any comments from you? We want to welcome you to the board and to the service of the board. Our partnership with the city of Chattanooga is critical to us. So we really do thank you for your working on the board and for the expertise you bring to us.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for the welcome. I appreciate you all.
Right. We're looking forward to seeing you. We'll be in person soon. We're looking forward to seeing you.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
All
Thank
right.
you. Bye.
Nothing else to come before us. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Unless
moved.
you want, there's one and there's a second. Give me a second, someone.
Adam, second.
All right. Consider yourself adjourned.
Bye-bye, everybody.
All in favor, hang up.
Bye.